Welcome back to the I Jupiter podcast. I'm Tom Franklin, your host, and today we have on one of my very best friends. He's from India. We met in Germany in the comedy scene. He's the godfather of the English comedy scene in Germany. I don't care what they say out there now. He is now in Spain. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome one of my best friends in the world to the I Jupiter podcast, Mr. Kirthy Iyer.
Yo, welcome. I like the intro, by the way. It went all Christopher Nolan at the end.
Who's Christopher Nolan?
The guy who makes this Inception movies, like.
Is that what it is? Yeah, that's my first, well, not my first, but one of my first, cinematography type things. I know for you, it's like, that's ballpark stuff because you studied it. But for me, I'm really proud of myself.
Oh, it's good. You know what I thought, though? Are you showing, it's like some cool pictures of different mystery and UFO phenomena, and my brain immediately went into, you could insert a clip of Barrett and it would still be fine. I'm sorry, my brain just went.
Just put his eye on there. He's going to be on the next episode. He's going to be on the next episode. That's tomorrow. Well, this is going to come out like the beginning of April or something. I'm backlogged a little bit, but maybe I'll start doing 2 a week. I don't know. Just so. For the listeners of the I Jupiter podcast, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Oh, that's a tough one. Well,
really?
Give me some. What do I say? I mean, I'm a fucking dude living on a rock with wants and desires and same fucking conundrum that every fucking human being has.
Oh wow, you're dropping the F-bomb without 10 minutes before it. Thanks. The algorithm's gonna love us. Yeah. Don't worry, it's okay. I'm down with the F-bombs. It's okay, dog.
Sorry.
Yeah,
it's the conundrum doesn't work very well without the F-bomb. No, I'm just
you're
so I'm basically I guess I'm a creative person. If you go for the labels, I'm I always got into how do you say, stories and fantasy, and it's been my thing forever.
Mm-hmm.
And I love humor, which is another reason I know you. It's just
that's how we met.
Humor is the way of coping with life because it's a fucking joke. It's a joke.
It's a joke with the F word at the beginning.
It's a joke.
It really is.
That whatever this is a joke. So humor is how I with it, you know.
Because normally on here I talk about Bigfoot and ghosts and all this stuff, and it's all crazy. You know what I'm saying? But even regular life is kind of crazy, you know? It's I think it's a joke from Louis C.K. Even if you fall in love with your best friend, at the end you die anyway. So it's so it's, whatever. Why don't you tell the people how we met, dude? How did we meet?
So I started stand-up comedy scene in Frankfurt. Actually, originally I wanted to do stand-up and I didn't find anything. And the true story is I had a friend at that time, a Romanian guy named Daniel, who sort of planted this idea after I did a public speaking for my games company at that time in San Francisco. So the video was on YouTube. I had long hair at the time. You can still find it.
Oh yeah, I
And
remember that. When I seen that, I laughed for about 20 minutes. Yes, that was
exactly,
fantastic.
I everybody laughed, but uh, I
That's
remember.
pre-beard too. It's pre-beard.
Yeah, yeah, and the weird thing is, I didn't know shit what I was talking about, but for some reason they all thought that I could present this technology. Anyways, I did that and came back, and my friend told me like, why don't you go do more like public speaking? So I went to a group called Toastmasters in Frankfurt, and it's like
Oh yeah,
kind of
yeah. I
like
got.
but they're supposed to like help each other with public speaking. So I did that, but everybody was super serious, and I just kept making jokes. So they
Yeah,
by the end of the course they said, you know,
you gotta go.
maybe you should do comedy.
I got invited to that too, dude. I got invited to that. I just never went. They were like, "You want to learn how to be a public speaker?" I was like, "I kind of already do that." You know, I
Yeah,
don't.
so it was funny for me because they all then told me to do stand up, and my friend again Daniel was like, let's do a comedy club, and he planted the idea. And my difference, the person I am, is like, if I commit to something I will do it.
Hmm.
So he kind of lost his job at that time. Once I had planned everything, I had made the banners and everything. So he said, I'm not going to participate. I was like, fuck, I invited, again, pardon my language. I invited people, and I was just like, I got to do it. So I said, I'll just do it on my own. And I forced two guys from that Toastmasters to do the first show, like to
Okay.
public.
Do I know
And
any of them? Do I know them?
Peter, maybe you know Peter. There's an old English guy used to perform with us.
Oh yeah, I remember him. He would just get up there and talk about his like, talk about like his eye
Politics or
operation.
some
Talk about
something
his
like that.
eye
Yeah,
operation.
yeah.
Yeah,
He's a
I
strange
remember.
cat, but he was the first one that I got on stage, and then there was another guy named Keith Bruce, who's a really good speaker, but definitely not funny.
Okay.
Uh, you probably won't like it if I say that, but that's the truth. He was just
Shout out the
very,
keys. Shout out.
he's very like serious, and he was like, I got control of life and stuff like that. And it was like,
Mm,
you know, when you
yeah.
have that kind of personality, like it's hard to be funny, because funny is a little bit, you have to put yourself as the butt of the joke a lot of times. You have to be self-deprecating, and if you can't do that,
It's
it's
not gonna
hard.
work.
Yeah.
It's not gonna work. It's not gonna work.
So,
Yeah,
anyways,
it's a
that's what
bit
I did. And then what happened is, I remember you got recommended, which is crazy, by a person who don't really like that much.
that we both don't like that much.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Right?
we went to a gig. I met you at a gig in Cologne,
Yes.
right? Right, which
Yes.
is like a 3 hour trip for me, and like an hour and a half, 2 hour trip for you, something like that. No, it's was it 3 hours for you too, right?
No, it's 1.5 hour.
1.5 hours.
Yeah.
So we meet there, right? And he's like, "Hi, I'm Kirthy," and I'm like, "Hi, I'm Tom." And I opened. I needed a half hour, and we did it with that dude, that English guy. Remember that guy with the teeth?
Oh yeah, yes, yes.
James something. Yeah, whatever. We're not going to drop names, but uh, also like a suit and tie guy, and yeah. And I went up and I did a half hour of like complete and utter bombing. And then you went up and did. I remember you were doing a whole like it was at least like a 10-minute bit about going to the urologist. I don't
Yeah.
remember. I don't remember all the parts of
Yeah,
it,
yeah,
but I do
yeah.
remember going to the urologist. And then like we would just like hit it off like right away. And you were like,
Yeah.
"Hey, dude." You were like, "Hey, dude, by the way, I run an open mic in Frankfurt." I was like, "Oh, cool. That's like an hour for me. I can do that." He's like, "Yeah, just come on over." And like it just started ever since then. You know, like we just like, we you like you kind of mentored me into comedy and taught me how to
Even though
be
I
a public
don't, you
speaker.
say that, but I never intentionally did. Like it
No,
was, it
no,
was,
no. It was like a friend thing. It wasn't like
yeah.
I'm gonna mentor you. It wasn't like that. You were just
No,
like, "Hey, don't do this as
I was,
much. Try to do that." Yeah.
I think it for me it was more like I was equally learning the art while working together. So it was more like, because you would say some things and I would learn from that. I would say some things. It was like this for me.
Yes. Yes.
Because you
And
because you guys had also a lot of knowledge about like watching stand up. I was like more new in that sense. I mean, I had watched stand up, but not like, for example, you knew a lot of George Carlin jokes that you just,
yes.
you could easily pick up a line and be like, that's a joke, and you would say that. And
Oh, I
so
can do
that
them like verbatim.
also,
Yeah.
exactly, verbatim. So for me it was like, it was such a good synergy there, where it was like, immediately you click, because I love comedy and somebody who speaks comedy, and I'm just like, yeah, that's my person.
Yeah, dude. And then So it was really crazy at the beginning. There was only like maybe like five comics when I got there, and you were like, "Yeah, you could do 15 minutes," and I'm just like, "Okay." And so it only happened, I think, once a month. Is that correct?
Yeah, at that time it was only once a
At that
month. Yeah.
time, once a month. And so every month I would sit down and write 15 minutes of new material, and slowly got better. The show slowly got bigger and better. We started getting more comics. It got to the point where I think the last time I hosted it was you were sick, I think, or had to go do something, and you were like, "Tom, you're hosting today." I was like, "Okay, here's the list of all the comics." I was like, "Oh my god, how do I?" So I made a set list, not a set list, but like a list of people to play, to come up on stage, and then I was like, "Okay, everyone's got okay, it's hour and a half show. I can't remember. I think it was something like that." And you were like, okay, I know this guy. He's good. I can put him here, and then kind of good, new, good, new. You know what I'm saying? And at the end, like a killer kind of thing. And then you came back and you were like, so how did you do? I said I did this, and then you were like, okay, you're not hosting anymore. And then you just started hosting all the time, which was great too, because then like you got really good at crowd work, and then we started doing the Amarula bar, and then the circus died. That's where it's called the circus bar. And then we went to the co-working space where we have to move all the chairs and desks and stuff. And that was cool too. And then it also turned into the one in Mainz, which was like my favorite room. And the reason was is because it was not a good room for comedy, and the crowds were awful for some reason. So
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
just let it rip, and you
Yeah.
would be in the back just going, "What are you?" I could hear you laughing, and then like you were, someone were recording, and I heard you. I said something about some Italian guy, like wanting to have sex while riding a scooter or something, and you were just like, "You motherfucker," just like, and it was like a lot of fun. But in that time, we fostered this relationship, and we became like the best of friends. Like, you could always count on me to be there. Eventually, it became where you can count on me to be like an anchor, to make sure that the audience would stay, and it was like an honor to be that for you. Um, you would like there was a certain crowd of people that came in towards like the end who were like very PC, which you and I are not.
Yeah.
And I would be like a little worried, and you pull me to the side and be like, "You just go in there and smash him in the face with a baseball bat, dude, and don't worry about it." And then the same thing happened to you like 2 months later where it was something else. You were like, I'm not having a good day or something. I was like, I pulled you to the side in the back room
Yeah.
too, and like go up there. And then like, this whole pandemic thing happened, and you and I were not taking the bait. And it was good to have somebody who was considering and thinking like I was, to have someone, because I was nervous about it. And you were just like my rock that I can lean upon. And you always were like telling me about things, about how to deal with these kind of things. And that's kind of like why I wanted you on today, is to talk about some of the philosophies that you've like taken into your life that have made it better. And we talked the other day for like, what was it, like 3 hours, 2 hours, something
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, we got to save some of this for the show. And you were like, but we haven't talked in a while. And I don't even know how to begin. Like, do you have any idea where you want to begin, like talking about these kind of things?
Yeah, I mean, to before we get into it, like to say one thing, which was like, I definitely, one of the reasons again why we have this connection with stand up, especially, like, first of all, stand up people who are really doing stand up with the love of stand up are my people. I always
Right.
consider it like, because I just know that they have looked inwards, they have kind of done some level of introspection, they have seen something strange about the world, they have like kind of questioned things, how things are,
Mm.
and so you click with that very easily compared to like anybody else who's just, like taking it for granted, everything, and just
Or taking it
uh,
seriously,
yeah, exactly.
you know?
So why I say this, because even when you said about the scene, which was like with the whole pandemic, that was also interesting for me, was like that I noticed some comedians, I would not even call them comedians, but for the sake of like people who are performing on stage, that I
Mm-hmm.
felt a bit like they were a bit breaking the rules of the very comedy logic, because to me it's like comedy has this sort of I don't think it's like a written rule, but you can sense it, which is the idea that uh, I'm here to make mistakes and I'm here to learn, and I'm not trusting anybody, and I look at the world differently.
Yeah,
um, and
agreed.
it can happen a lot of times where you meet someone and they are different, like you might not agree with them, but what I loved about that sort of stand-up atmosphere was it was like, I totally don't agree with that guy, but I like him because he has a very interesting viewpoint, and it
Yes,
it keeps me more sane because I have more viewpoints, different viewpoints I have. I know I'm not in a cult.
true,
One
true.
one way of saying it, you know.
Yeah, you can have people like I hate to use this terminology too. There's people who are a little bit more progressive. There's people who are a little more conservative, and you and I were both. We made fun of both sides and intentionally did that to make people uncomfortable. And it was always a trip. Like you would say something, and I would go, "That's not." I know that's not you because I know you. You know, and I'd be like, "That's not you." But I love that he's taking that position to poke fun at the bear. So yeah, and we also, that's kind of like behind the scenes. We have a group chat. If that was ever brought up in court, you and I would definitely be behind bars.
Honestly, I have thought about that. Just so you know, I've thought about that multiple times, and I've thought
Really?
about it that I don't give a shit.
Yeah, yeah.
Honestly, if I feel like if that ever would happen, where my discussions with Barrett or my chat would be taken, I would just be
Mm,
like, I would fight to death on that hill. You know why? Because
mm,
that was the biggest issue that I have. Is like everybody thinks weird shit.
yes,
Everybody does. But now they make it sound like just because you chat with someone, with a friend of yours, and you have some weird opinion, that somehow you are held accountable for those views. If I could just have a way to transmit everybody's thoughts, you'll find out that everybody's a piece of shit.
yeah, yeah. It'd be like Minority Report. It'd be my Minority Report, but it would be like where you're actually thinking about minorities. I couldn't help myself. Jeez,
No, there was set up there already.
that was right there. That's the kind of
I'm
thing that
trying to
me.
not go too much in the comedy route because
I
my
know,
brain's
I know. We're
like,
trying to be somewhat serious, but at the same time,
I'm trying to be
it's
like
you and me.
serious, you
And
know.
it's you and I, and it's always been you and I. But yeah, so we always connected on this. You were telling me that there's two people in the world, as a certain family member that you can trust to be yourself around, and me, and I took that as one of the honestly, dude, one of the biggest compliments I've ever had in my life. And I'm glad you feel that way because I feel the same way about you. Like I can just, you know what I mean? When things broke down in my life, you and Barrett were the first two people I talked to about it because I needed to talk to somebody.
That means a lot, man.
And right, and it does mean a lot, dude. It does mean a lot. Like your deepest, darkest, like secrets as well as wants and wishes and thoughts, and to have someone go, you know what? It's okay to think that way, but just consider this. And and people, I think everyone needs that. And
No, 100%, 100%.
for some reason nowadays, you're not allowed to be yourself. And it's just, I mean, we know people in the comedy scene too. They're like, I can't, because we were running a podcast during the pandemic and we were like, hey, let's just hang out and talk crap and then record it and put it up on this and just have a good time. And one guy who's a great comic, by the way, he was just like, I can't because I'll lose my job. And I was just like, man, that's so sad. It is so sad that we live in a world that this exists. And yeah, and you really helped me in a lot of things, like because I was dealing with the like strong depression for a while there, and I was like, man, I just feel bad. And one thing that always stuck with me that you said is like, don't say that you feel bad or don't say that you feel sick. Just say, I feel different today. And that's so crazy how powerful that is, because a lot of people out there are dealing with death. They lose their job because they didn't want to do a certain intervention in their life, or they lost their house, or they lost all their friends because they either did or didn't do. There's a horn. You hear the horn honking out there?
Yeah, I do. I thought.
Welcome to Mexico. There's nothing I can do about it, so you guys are gonna have to
I
deal
just
with
think
it.
of it
Maybe
as
there it goes.
maybe it's a Pepsi commercial. You
It's a
know,
commercial. It's a commercial.
Pepsi commercial where they're like honking, and the next thing you know, water breaks loose and everybody starts dancing. You know.
No, because there's a mechanic right here, and he always plays like music, and I'm like, oh, we got to do a podcast, dog. What are you out there playing music? But they always play music here. This place is very noisy, and so it's funny. Like, so during that whole thing too, this is hilarious. So me and him were just chatting back and forth. Yeah, yeah, dude, this ain't happening. I don't care. They're gonna have to drag me out of my house. Blah 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 blah. Right? And so Curtis like, I'm out of here, dude. I'm like, yeah, me too. And I'm like, where are you going? He's like, I'm going to Spain. I was like, he goes, where are you going? I was like, Mexico. He's like, dude, you're I just trumped him, just threw down. But we both went to Spanish speaking countries, so I think it was pretty interesting.
I got like the more, like, let's say, what's the word, like laminated Spanish card. You gotta really drop down on the dirt,
Yeah,
spit on it.
I went to Spanish speaking India. That's where I went. That's what he tells me. He's like, I went away from that where like, you'll see. I seen a baby. Okay, there was a guy driving a motorcycle with the baby here, and he's driving. I don't know how he's doing the clutch and all that, and the baby's asleep. And I was just like, check that out. And he was like, yeah, dude, that's every day in India. And I was like, oh, I guess I wanted to see that part of life. I don't know. And so that's what we did for this whole thing that happened that we all know about that we can't talk about on here because they don't want the truth to be out. They don't want anyone to discuss it because who knows? And for some reason, everyone does know. So we know anyway, so that they still don't allow that is insane. But at the same time, we all know what
But
my
is it
friend and
so?
I are
Because I
talking
thought
about.
at this point it's kind of more open in the discussion, which is funny. Now, like, there is no repercussion for the stuff, but of course they act like even the mainstream media is now saying like, yeah, you're probably gonna get fucked if you took
Yeah,
the
but they'll
jabs.
but they'll like shout about my channel. You know what I mean? Like maybe I won't be able to get to do anything if I speak about it in a certain way. But we all know what I'm talking about. And me and my buddy here, me and my buddy Kirthy, we held true to form and said, "The hell with this," because you just take Germany. This I'm serious. It sounds awful, but it's true. I mean, there's many people in Germany that I don't want to like say that are bad, but take the concept of Germany that you all know, and then take the concept of what happened and put those together, and that's what it became. And me and one of my best friends in the world were like, "We're out of here," and we both bounced. And now we live the life that we wanted, and I think you're very happy where you are, aren't you?
Yes, I am. I'm very
Me too,
happy.
man. Me too,
Yeah.
dude. Me too.
And
So let's get into some. I'm sorry. What were you going to say?
no, I was gonna say, like, I think get into actually that, which is like, to me, the biggest thing that I notice is I'm not so afraid of like physical sort of action from a third party or whatever,
Okay.
but I'm more aware of the, what you call it, the psyop or the mind
The
f.
mind. Yes.
Because the
The
truth is
mind.
like, your most the most this you can see, like, all the stuff that's done around in this world, it's first done through convincing that this is the case. Like, there's a first planting of the idea, and the
Right.
idea takes fruition once the idea has been planted. So and this, I think, is partly maybe the manipulation of the mind, because the mind is the manifester of the world. Because there are certain things you can kind of see, like we are experiencing reality through our mind, so we don't really experience reality, we experience just in our mind, we think it's reality, but it's not. We are never in
Okay.
face we are never in face with reality. We are always experiencing a version of reality from our mind.
Right.
So and that's why, like, a lot of the times where this idea to sort of inspect reality and be like, oh, let's find out what's out there, most of the time it's a sort of a futile attempt from science, you could say. That reason is because to truly understand what's out there is to first figure out how this thing works, like how the consciousness works.
Right.
Because we are experiencing everything in the consciousness. So it's like, so I always try to give the example. I have this fun discussions with my older son nowadays, and I bring this discussion. I say, imagine if Mario, if Mario the video game,
Yes.
imagine if Mario became self-aware in the video game. I asked my son, I said, do you think for Mario the video game is fictional? And anybody would think enough would say, no, for him the mushroom's real, the pipe's real, the pain's real. he has a lot of a concussion because he keeps hitting blocks all the time just to collect
Yes.
coins.
What? Oh my God, he has a hard head.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
He's hard headed for sure.
But he didn't eat some Didn't he eat some mushroom, and he gets
Exactly.
big.
There you go. So, but the thing is, like, he for example is not aware that he is being an sort
When
of an experiment, it's an amusement for another being outside the screen,
right,
and he can't
interesting.
experience that. But he is, if he's so focused on this aspect, now he's trying to look at the particles. Let's say he's looking at the screen. If Mario was in the world and he's going, whoa, what's this stuff made of? This is real. It's like he can never have the possibility to truly see and go, oh, just fuck, it's pixels. He can't,
Right,
because he's
right,
trapped in the very world that he's trying to analyze from the very limitations of his own mind. So the
right.
only
This
way,
ah
so the only way he could kind of escape and truly instant reality would be for him to sort of first figure out, how is my mind working, how am I even seeing this thing, because that's the only outlet. Because if he starts operating there, then there's a possibility that he could see he's not just limited consciously to that dimension or whatever you call it. So it's
right.
one way to look at it, which is, this is kind of how I feel. So that's why maybe I went on a weird tangent, but the point is, mind is
No,
everything.
I think you're
Mind
trying
is
to connect
everything.
it to yeah, of course. I think you're just trying to connect it to what we perceive as what we think is reality. So you're just making
Yes.
an
So you
analogy.
can kind of extend an olive branch here. You can imagine, like, if you notice, like, when the pandemic happened, the first thing they do is, like, they make it a big deal. You see an example, it's in China, and then they say, what will happen if it would happen here, what would happen.
The people
And
dropping on the
then,
streets.
exactly, and then, and all
Yeah.
the main, like, the media, which never gets any repercussion for it, but they never come from the point of, like, hey guys, like, this is happening, we gotta see what's happening. Like, there's no, like, sort of rational approach to an event. It always is,
Yes.
like, because of course that's their job. The minute something happens, they go, holy shit, we're gonna die. Like, it's always this
Hmm.
kind of panic. And
Which
once
is
everybody is bought into the narrative, they got you.
well because at the same time the media companies are on the stock market, so therefore they need to have viewership. So therefore they know the human psychology of fear. So human psychology of fear makes people watch and pay attention. Therefore they make money. So it's fear driven. So it's actually evil. To be honest with you, if you're able to manipulate somebody with fear, then you're doing, for lack of a better term, the devil's work, if you want to call it that, to make it so that people understand what I'm talking about. And then in the end, it all turns out that it was all, in my opinion, not all of it, not all of that. People did get hurt, people did die for sure, but at the same time, there was something else involved in it, and I think everyone knows that. Retrospectively, I'm very proud of myself that I stuck to my guns, and I wanted you to know personally that you were a huge part of that. You were a
I really,
huge part of that. Yeah, dude. Yeah. So
means a lot.
reality, what is it?
And what is it good for? Absolutely nothing.
Nothing. Oh, come on. So wait a minute. Okay, okay. You're Chris Tucker and I'm Jackie Chan.
That's a role reversal.
Yes, yes. I mean,
Do
I'm just trying to
you
make
speak
it.
English? Do you speak English? Come on, man.
Do understand words that come out of my mouth. Yeah, this is so yeah. So I started doing comedy again here with my broken Spanish, and I'm thinking eventually to post it on my other YouTube channel, Tom Franklin Art, and kind of like maybe do it like where it's like a series of me, because I have it all filmed, where I like slowly get better so people can see the process of me trying to work out the language, because I already know how to do it, but this is the third language I've tried it in, because we've also tried it in German, which was difficult, because you have to be very specific in German, because if not, the Germans will pull you to the side. Go, you don't say it quite like that, therefore we're not going to laugh. I don't know why they're like Southern American now, but But here it's different. The people are much more
I mean, it kind of makes
in
sense why they
tune.
have why the word grammar Nazi comes from, because you know.
Where's the word grammar come from? Grimoire.
Yeah,
Where's
but grammar Nazi,
yes, yes.
that
We're
comes
saying all kind
from.
of good words. I'm sure the algorithm is going to pick this up and promote this.
Well, there's a
I'm just having
context
fun.
here.
I'm
There-
having fun.
There's a
I'm having fun.
context here.
There's a
You know.
context to it. Yeah,
Yeah.
but the word, like, just like words themselves, because you always like to get back to language and how language is like magic, because it basically is.
It is. It
Because
is.
we say we spell it, we spell where grammar comes from grimoires, which is a book of magic or a book of spells. Um, it's symbols that induce an idea in your mind.
Symbol
You,
minded. I like that.
which is a Carlin bit. Thank you, sir.
I know.
Uh,
I know. No, that's
symbols
I
for the simple
remember
mind.
because you told me that when whoops long time when you like ages ago. I remember some stand-up show you said that, and then I immediately had to go and search that bit and listen to it because I was like,
Symbols are for the simple
yeah,
minded.
yeah, yeah,
Yes, they use that
yeah.
against us. Pink ribbons for this and yellow ribbons for that, and it's all like cartoonish. It's all cartoonish. It has nothing to do with actual life. It does. It
Well,
has
that's
nothing to
why
do
you
with
can see it. So that's what. So it comes back to the same topic, which is so this is like power. So power, in some sense, is to that's if you can use it's used by both forces in a way. Why are you laughing?
my girlfriend's over here laughing. She likes to watch cat videos,
Got it.
mostly cat
Okay.
and dog videos where cats like swat at each other and then like freak out. There's this one. My favorite one is with the metronome. There's a metronome clicking, so the cat's going with the metronome.
I saw one which my favorite is the cat. Saw a video of like some movie where it was Bruce Lee or something, and
Yeah.
the cat started bobbing its head, like learned from the movie. And then the
Hmm.
video is like he's going in a street alley fight, and the cat's doing this and slapping other cats and winning the fight. That's my favorite.
Yeah, you're gonna have to send that one to me. I'm sure she'll love that one.
Yeah, I
And
love
there's
that one.
another one where the cat meows, but they take the meow out and he just goes, "Oh." It's so stupid.
Cats are weird, by the way.
But every time I see it, I laugh because it's just stupid, and that's funny too. I love the mixture of the two, the absurd and the darkness and the playing with words, which is what I'm learning here in Spanish. So yeah, that's what I'm doing as well. But I don't know. I don't know where to go with this because you and I always just seem to run on tangents. Right now, we're on cat
Yeah,
videos.
yeah. No, I think I was talking about words, and I was saying
Words,
that this
yes.
just comes back to the power thing because you can notice it's like so it's very interesting to look at it that way, which is I another example that I give to my kids. I tell them my kids ever had that like I told them never ever get affected by anybody saying anything to you. And I said how? So I gave them example. I said if words really hurt, they would hurt you even in a language you don't understand.
True. What about? I'm sorry to cut you off. What about someone saying something positive? Would you let them affect you on that?
No, so it
Okay.
goes it goes further. So first, there was a point that I tried to make my son, which is like I was like, if I could say a really nasty word in Hindi, I'm like you would know. So I said the meaning is always at your like you're the station where the meaning happens. You're the meaning giver. So if
Right.
you get the word, it's just a sound. It goes into your head. Then you have a repository of what the sound means and a
Hmm.
context and a relationship with the person, and then you form the meaning. So the power is always at your end, which is kind of interesting. That it's always you have the right to kind of go no hablo inglés and you can move on, right? Or you could go, oh, he called me and I'm gonna take an action. And then you say,
True.
and then you blame the person, say he called me that. Yeah, but you gave the meaning.
Right.
Now the same goes to positive. So positive, it's a double-edged sword. Positive it depends on what how you take it. For example, compliments actually can be detrimental.
Okay.
Why? Because what happens is again depends on you. If you take a compliment as a genuine gesture of this person is appreciating something and you take it and you let it go, then it's great.
Yes.
But there is a tendency that can happen that you become attached
Oh.
to the compliments or you get attached to the labels that are given. So
And then it
as a,
connects
if
to
a
like a. I'm sorry. Then it connects to a.
expectation now, you have an
It,
expectation now.
it can also connect to the Freudian concept of the ego. You know what
No,
I mean? Where like,
that's what the ego feeds on. The ego feeds on
right,
this. So,
right.
for example, if I tell a child, like, if my kid, I would say like, oh, you're so good, you're so smart, you're so smart. Well, as long as I don't give him the context of you're smart, but it's also okay if you're dumb. I love you regardless.
Mm,
But if he starts thinking like, well, the only way my dad cares about me is if I'm smart, now I have sort of, let's say, manipulated him,
okay.
which is different. Which is, again, this is very difficult, like, for humans to become aware of the free will aspect of it, because I always tell, again, my kids example, we have this conversation a lot. I tell them, uh I say, you can do anything in this world. You have the right, like, you have the right to, for example, this three, actually, a friend of mine gave me a very, like, he said, you have the right to change your mind, which a lot of people think you can't, but you have the right to change
Of
your
course you
mind.
do. Of
You
course.
have the right to say no.
Hmm.
And also, there was a third one, right? You're right to change your mind, you're right to say no, and you have
You have
the right
to do the moonwalk.
just the right to do the moonwalk. um but the point is, like, this right that they have, like, that for example, I tell my kid, like, anytime you can decide. However, there are things you do which have repercussion, like there's repercussion
Mm,
to it, you can face them, but you still have the right. And the last one, which was that, you have the, like, what we were talking about earlier, which was, I forgot.
language.
Yeah,
Language.
so yeah, language. So I was basically saying, like, they have the right to, like, say, if a friend says, like, hey, you want to go to a party, and you say, like, nah, of course the person will be upset,
Yes.
but this is a repercussion that you face, but you still have the right for to it, you know
Hmm.
but what I'm oh yeah, the free will. So what I'm saying is, I
Free
said, the
will.
one thing
Okay.
you can't do, which you can see that there's intrinsic, written in the nature that you can observe, is that to basically mess with another person's free will. That is like evil, basically.
Yes. Do
So
you
evil
believe
evil is like making somebody do something against their own
i-
self-interest,
intuition or whatever? Sure.
intuition, or exactly their own being, which is
Hmm.
like, and this is, in a way, you could call it the dark side, because,
Okay.
and so
Okay.
that's
All
where
right, Anakin.
the, yeah.
Can I ask you a question about this free will concept? Because I've always wanted, we never discussed it. Because like these neuroscientists like Sam Harris will say that we actually don't have free will. What do you think about that? Because I think I personally don't believe it. I do believe I have free will. And that's fine with me whether it's true or not. Doesn't matter. You know
Well,
what I'm
I
saying?
think so. It's very interesting. So I've kind of, let's say, piggybacked and forth on this multiple times. At the moment, I'm in the place of the conclusion that we don't. But
Okay.
I can give you a reasonable example of why, and it doesn't matter though. It doesn't matter
True.
though.
Okay.
So there are a couple of examples. One is like, um but we talked about this last time, if you remember, that I so the point is, like, language is one of the reasons that is, we use language to separate reality. We
Mm,
use language to separate reality. Without language, you would not be able to separate reality, and you'll go back to the very position that a child's been, which is when a child is born. It just looks, and it has no idea, like, what is what.
right. It's just I think the word you used
Pure
was pure
awareness.
awareness.
Yes,
Yes.
and that is who we are. That is by being who we are. We are pure awareness. We have installed this from the programming of the society, like, that's mom, that's dad, that's a tree, that's a Ferrari, and that dude's banging your sister, whatever, like. I had to throw it there. But, um so you have these. I had to throw it there, sorry.
No, I know. Look, for all the people out there, this is what we do when we hang out, dog. All right, so deal with it.
But the point is, like, the labels, separate. So if somebody would say, I'm in control, and this is the like, somebody say, hey, I'm in control, I'm lifting this bottle right now, you could say, yes, you're lifting this bottle right now, but do not forget the multiple evolutionary process of being able to lift the bottle attached to it. And without the
Okay.
language, you would not be able to separate this movement. In fact, from non-language point of
Oh,
view, that action that monkey took is still causing this movement today.
wow. I think I finally got it because you said that to me the other day, and I was just like, huh? Just like that cat, huh? And, and
So that's one way to look at it. There's another way to look at it, which
okay,
is
I get that now.
video game is a great one, which is in video games, you can see that the character, if you would play it, if you try to, even a movie or video game, either both of them, you can look the the why it's so intense, the emotion when you watch a movie. For the character's point of view, it's convincing acting. If you look at it, you would think that that character in that movie literally believes the things that's happening to them,
Right,
right?
right,
And that you would never see a movie where the character goes. I mean, there are some movies that are meta that try to break it, but in reality, most movies are like, they never go, well, I'm just a character in a movie, so what's the point? You never have that. They're really convinced that they are the character. They live the
right.
life. And if
Well,
you would
they
even
convince you,
imagine,
actually. They convince you,
yes,
actually.
exactly. So if you would have the possibility, for the sake of hypothetical, like you could travel into their world and tell them that you're just a character, they just would like, you're crazy, like you're insane. So they really believe they're in control.
Okay.
But how can that character would ever be able to witness that the script has already been laid out, the actions have already been written, the movie has already been made, and the projector plays. As soon as the movie starts playing, the character thinks that they're in control, but
Mm.
it's already been laid. So in that same example, if you think about it, like, you didn't choose your parents, you didn't choose your name, you didn't choose your where you're going to be born, you didn't choose your gazillion entire history of ancestry, anything, like gazillion amount of possibilities that are happening. Not a single choice is yours. How the planet was designed, how the space is made, how,
Mm.
and what's amazing is the factors that keep everything stable.
Yeah,
They're,
but yet you still exist.
so
That's the
I'm coming to
great
that. I'm
part.
coming to
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
I'm coming
Oh,
to that.
sorry. Oh, sorry, sorry. Am I jumping the shark?
No, no, no. Yes, no, no. It's good. But that is the miracle part of it. But if you look at it, it's like all of that is created, and it has like a certain intelligence in design that you cannot deny. So there are a certain group of scientists who think like it was random. Like they just
Mm.
think like it was like random, this Big Bang Theory happened and poof, consciousness was created. Okay,
Right.
if it was my argument, okay, I'm not a scientist, but my argument is, if it's random, then you would not be able to see a concrete intelligence in the events. You would see a lot of random things, but you can see there is an intelligence. For example, and this is, I don't know if you know about simulation theory, which is very fascinating. Simulation theory is, do you know about simulation theory?
Yes, I've heard of it. Yes.
So it's interesting for me because I'm come from tech field also, so I understand how game engines work. Or
Mm-hmm.
so we do. The weird thing is, the engine works exactly the way the simulation theory would work, which is fascinating. So let me explain a little bit, like, boring technical. So in a game engine, right, the 3D world, virtual world that they make, the computer doesn't have the computing power to render everything, like basically calculate
Right.
everything and then generate pixels. It just can't. It doesn't have the computing power. So what the way the virtual world works is it computes locally.
Okay.
Okay, so if I'm playing a game, it's a virtual world, I don't know, whatever,
Uh
I'm in a
huh.
forest, the data gets to the computer and says you're in this forest area. So it
Mm-hmm.
renders everything in my proximity. It renders at high detail. I go to a tree, the leaf is like super detailed, right?
Okay. Okay. So for the listeners of the Eye of Jupiter podcast, I don't know if you know about the 411. Do you know the missing 411 is?
No.
The missing 401 is where people go into these national parks and just disappear. So, like, the simulation theory would be like that the computing power being localized in these national forests where nobody is, because, like, when it overlaps at them, I'm extrapolating from the concept that when you go out there, did you just kind of disappear? You know
It
what I
can.
mean?
I mean, it's possible. So if we go to the simulation theory, then of course that is possible. So,
Okay.
but the point where I was going with the point was like it's interesting that even in our own design of a framework of a virtual world, we are
Mm-hmm.
limited by the very fundamental possibilities that we see in the real world. So what I mean by that is like when I compute, I'm not able, my computer is not able to compute a tree that is far, far away. It's just not possible. It's so heavy that it says, I can only show you where you are in detail. And the
Okay.
way it does, multiple computers. So in a video game, for example, if I'm in a forest and you're playing and you're in a like a city area in that it's a big, let's say, world in this video game, and you're in a city area, your computer is rendering your city world. My computer is rendering the forest world. If we
Right.
meet, we're both locally rendered, but we share the same universe,
Okay.
right?
That's
Now, if you
interesting.
think about the
Yeah. Okay.
simulation, our mind is entirely we experience reality from the mind. So my mind is like a form of computer, you could say, and your mind is a form of computer. When you're in your world, everything is detail, and I'm there, it's everything is in detail. And then you notice if it the evidence why they say there's a possibility we're in a simulation is because one of the things that they do in games, just like you said with the park disappearing, one of the things they do in video games to make sure that people don't find out that there's limitations is they try to prevent you from leaving the capacity of the simulation. So, for
Right.
example, if it's a game where they did not design the capacity to go in space, they would make sure that you don't have a rocket, you can't do certain things, you can't
Uh
just
huh.
launch yourself in space, whatever.
Uh
And
huh.
of
The
course,
firmament. The firmament.
every now and then, of course, there will be some guy who will like very rarely would break the logic of the game and find out like if he goes to the skyscraper and does some weird jump and then he will shoot out, then shows how the
Right.
game is broken or
Yes.
whatever,
Yeah.
right?
David Blaine. Yes.
But look at our reality. Our reality is created exactly the same way. It's like our reality, everything is against from us to quickly jump to other parts of the world as a simulation.
Right.
And the more humans are there, the more complex the simulation. So when it was very few humans, then we didn't have even have the prospect of traveling from one part of the earth to another part of the earth.
Right.
Less computing. The more humans we have, we solve that. We have computing power to travel different parts of the world, do different things, even now be able to go to space, orbit, satellite, or go further. So more and more we see. However, we still have limitation. We can you look at from a telescope and say, oh, there's a planet there, and be like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
scientists say that's there, and you have no idea if that even really exists. It's in a simulation you would not know.
Okay.
So
Now
in a
here's a
video
couple.
game, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if in a video game, if you look through a telescope, you would see something and you would say, I see that it's far, far away. There's a sun there. But from a coding point of view, I would have just drawn one little texture, put it on there, like one little poster, and make you think that it's far, far away.
Interesting. You were talking about a lot of things that we can't talk about. It's called the FE. I don't know if you know what that is. We'll just
No,
leave
no
it at
idea.
that.
What's an
It's a
FE?
it's I'll tell you afterwards. It's like a pizza instead of like a basketball, because that could be, if you don't, if this it's this instead of this, if you know what I'm talking about.
Ah, that.
The
Oh,
people, you can't talk about that either. But I was thinking about, like, when the higher you go up, say for example, this is a simulation and it's like a game. You were computing the two in your mind, or combining the two, as an analogy, which is great. Well, it sounds really cool too, because what I thought of is like, okay, so you're in a city, you're down low, you can only see so far on the horizon. Things are in much more detail, but you can only see maybe, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 city blocks. And then when you go up higher, you can see farther away, but the farther away you get, the less detailed it is, because the
well,
computing
that's
power
that's
doesn't
the point.
exist.
That was
Right.
the
And
point
then
with
when
the
you get up,
simulation.
right. And then when you get all the way up to the jet in the sky, you see, even less. And that's just so interesting that
Yeah, so
it's
that's the same logic with how computing works, which is even
right.
Google Maps, it only downloads high res images when you zoom in. it does not show you high res images because it can't. It doesn't even have the capacity to do it. It's just not possible. And also, it's
Hmm.
kind of pointless because our visual is limited to what we see. So if you look, if you sort of think about it, then you think, isn't it interesting that why isn't reality? Let's play like a fun advocate. I would not call it devil's advocate because why should he have all the fun?
Right.
Let's play
Yeah.
this. Let's
Take that, Al
play.
Pacino.
Let's play Bob's advocate.
Such a white person name.
I like Bob. Bob the
Yeah.
Builder, thinks about things. So Bob's kind of like, how come our reality is not like that? I could just look outside and I could see what's happening on the other side of the hill. Why not?
Okay.
And if you could look, if you use this argument, you could go, how come it's not like if I want to take a jump that I can't just leap to another country? Why not?
Mm.
Because if you go through the simulation theory, it's fascinating because this is a simulation and they don't, like, whoever designed the simulation does not want you to go beyond the bounds of the simulation. And every factor is designed such a way light can travel 3 into 10 is per 8 meter per second,
Okay.
right? But there's limits, and there's like outside earth we can't survive, which is fascinating. We
Okay.
can't just so if I would have made a simulation as an engineer, I would have made a simulation and said, let's try make a fictional virtual world. I would have done exactly the same limitations that our world has.
Okay.
So I'm just
Interesting.
saying, like, it's very fascinating to think about that we again, it comes back to this aspect of like there are correlations to our mind, everything experienced in the mind. When I say everything experienced in the mind, people think like, some people think I'm crazy, but I'm like, you don't really see. You have the eyes that captured like lens, like a camera lens. The image goes into the brain, it flips it, it hears a sound from the ear, it connects it, and it's frame per second, it stitches them into a single movie and then plays in your brain with a very, very, very tiny lag that we cannot detect.
All right.
And we
All right.
then do the labeling. So
And
you're
so
not,
all
it's,
this is going back to not having free will. Is that what you're basically saying?
no, I'm saying it all goes back to, no, free will, you have the free will, but I'm saying it all goes back to that you are experiencing everything within your computing power, or what you call it, your mind or your
Hmm.
consciousness. And the only thing that really you can concretely say, that one thing that really exists in reality, is consciousness. Because, or the fact that you exist. The fact
Right.
that you're aware is the only thing that you can be certain is it's there.
That's there.
Something is there that I'm able to have this conversation with you and be aware that I'm having this conversation with you.
Interesting.
That's one
Very
thing that I can
interesting.
concretely say that it's there.
So when the hardware goes bad, say you start growing, I'm getting my eyesight's getting worse. Excuse me, I have a bit of a cold today too, guys. So my eyesight's getting worse. So that I need a hardware upgrade, or what's happening there? How would you stitch that into this idea that you're?
Well, in reality, like, let's put it this way: if you explore it, it's very fascinating. I personally think that consciousness cannot die. It just can't.
Okay.
Not like the kind of like, I mean, I have no idea whether I will be there like post death or whatever. This is like a futile conversation because you'll only know when you're dead, and when you're dead, it's not like I'm coming back going, "Hey, here's the check, here's the receipt, I'm alive." You know,
Leave a
it
tip.
yeah, told you so. Should have believed me. But it doesn't happen like that. So, however, what you can notice is that except death, consciousness cannot cease to not exist. Have you noticed this? It's very fascinating.
Say it again. Say it again one more time, please.
Except death, which is a fictional construct for us because we have not experienced death so far,
Right.
consciousness cannot not cease to exist ever
Cannot.
for our experience. So I know it's double negative, but let me put it this way.
Yeah, that's why I'm having
When you go to
issues.
sleep, when you go to sleep,
My computer's running low right
no, when you go to
now.
sleep, let me simplify it. When you go to sleep,
Hmm.
you're still there.
Yes, in a
When you
sense.
So is there any moment that you're not there? That's what I'm saying. It's
Okay.
it's 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 it's, it's continuous. So people say, like, you die, all these ideas or whatever, but it's very fascinating that something that does not ever cease to exist appears at birth
Okay.
and is gone at death. And the
So
one
with
it
all
says so-called gone is only for the other people. The one who
right.
is there, they can't even tell you if they're gone or not.
Hmm. Okay.
So
That explains ghosts, guys. I'm just trying to tie it all into my podcast here.
no, that's my argument, is like consciousness doesn't die. So my point is, like,
Uh-huh.
if you really explore this, like, there's a
Okay. So you're saying
intuition.
consciousness doesn't derive from the brain, it derives from it's here and we experience it like we're an antenna. Is that what you're saying? Kind of.
Yes, so let me put, like, again, if you go to the simulation concept, it's similar in the sense that your when you play a character in a game, or when you're doing the virtual world,
Mm-hmm.
your consciousness is, like they say, it's the computing power, but usually it's run in the clouds. It's run in a cloud. It's the server is somewhere else, you know. And the weird
Mm-hmm.
thing is, in fact, the computing is shared across computers. It's not even like your a consciousness is on a fixed location. It's in the clouds. Why do they call it clouds? Because it's multiple computers
Uh,
sharing.
it's okay. I don't know. I'm not going to speak for you. This is Tom speaking. I've taken psychedelics, and I am a big fan of cannabis. Not always, but I use it to expand my mind. It sometimes lets me know where I am, because sometimes you think, "Am I doing the right things?" And then it'll sometimes go, "You're okay," and sometimes it'll go, "No, you should be looking at this." That happens a lot. And when you take these substances, you do have this very innate, strong sense of we are all the same thing.
Yes,
It's so powerful that
yes,
it seems like it's a joke actually, and it'll ground you and it'll make you much more loving towards everyone. I've noticed that too.
yes.
Sorry to add
No,
in my
no,
little two
no, no.
cents.
It's these are things you can notice. No, for example, like, that's why I'm a big. My path is more like spiritual in the sense, and I notice these patterns myself, which is, you can notice that the so-called evil that we say that, like, this person's evil. We can very quickly identify that the evil is usually, let's call it, a bad programming. What I mean by that is, like, the evil in the sense is, like, they are so bought in by the idea of separation. They are so bought in with this idea that I am separate and I am
Hmm.
supposed to, like, I because I exist, whatever I did it, or I'm a billionaire and I made it so far, and I matter.
Right.
I could not die. I mean, I should live forever, and I
Right.
should
Right.
own everything. And this all this. Oh, like, if you really break it down from a conceptual part of it, it's a bunch of gas, because it's like, what do you mean own anything?
Right.
What are you talking about? You don't own anything. You, like,
Nothing.
that's never, like, these are negotiations. These are all, everything is in the world of language. Ownership is a language, is a contract, a verbal commitment that we have made to say, for some reason, I have ownership over this property. But what does it really mean to own? Like, you don't
Okay.
really own. What do
Okay.
you own? It's a verbal contract.
Okay.
If tomorrow, let's say, everybody is, like, gone and you're the only one there, well, what do you own, the planet now? Well, you kinda, but you know
Kind
what I
of.
mean, like,
Yes.
you can't just go around and be like, oh, I own the planet, like, or if
Yeah.
it's two people,
Well, who are you telling it to?
yeah, exactly.
You look at a squirrel. You're like, hey, that's my nut. Let's get back to
So
the concept of good and evil for a second, if you don't
yes,
mind. So you do, because I feel a little bit different about it. I mean, that's fine, of course. I feel that there is a true evil in this world, and I feel if there is a good true evil, that there is also a true good. What do you think about that?
well, I
Like an
think there is,
overarching, like for me, I
I
really believe that there's an overarching evil in this world, and it's I think a lot of people are at least tending to think that way now too. That also might be a mind game that's playing. But at the same time, when you look at what's going on, whether it's greed, um, or I don't know, but there's something is askew.
Yeah, so for me it's like this. It's like if I go further, I always think like, okay, since the universe is a infinite thing, like I
Okay.
mean, I'm gonna do injustice to speak about the universe, because in that sense I look at it as, like, when I say the word, even the word God, I don't go in the aspect of religious connotations, because those are bad
Okay.
concepts. I think of it as like there is a higher intelligence, or like, for the lack of a better word, an infinite creation that is there. Reason I say it like this is because it is fascinating that whatever exists, it's just fascinating. If you look around, be like the plants, the animals, and humans, and different types of humans, and different personality, and all that, and awareness, different levels of awareness. There's like
True.
plants which have awareness, but we don't know the just because we can't make connection with them, we don't know what kind of awareness they have.
Mm.
uh, and then animals have awareness, you can see that, and
Yes.
animals that are closer to humans have more human like awareness. So
Right.
for example, wild animals have awareness, but they don't have that awareness of name association like
True.
dogs have, because dogs
That
spend time with humans.
you blew me away with that too. Like when you say when we see a tree, we the tree doesn't know that it's a tree. It's doing its own thing. You know what I'm saying? Like it just exists.
Yes.
And it's kind of callous of us to think that somehow we are smarter or better than it because maybe we just don't understand.
Well, I think that is the problem a lot of times, where we are so self egoistically driven that we think like we are aware, henceforth everything should operate the way we think. And
Right.
again, it comes back to the initial point that I made, which is Mario is stuck with his perceptions of reality, and he thinks that he is the big deal,
Okay.
and
The big
we are kind of
cheese.
this, yeah, big cheese. So we're kind of like in this position where it always comes down to, it's like, well, like for example, look at the whole concept of the vegan stuff. The vegan stuff is a good example. What
Huh.
do they say? They say it's wrong to kill animals, but they don't
Mm.
give a shit about the plants. They were happy to fucking import avocados from a South American country where they should be
Well,
feeding themselves,
they
just to
also
get an
don't
avocado or a toast in a European country where it can't grow, or something like that,
well, they
right?
also can't. They also don't understand the concept of monoculture and that the fact to grow these plants that you have to kill like everything around it, including all the ground nestings, animals
I
and
mean,
birds
this
and things like
it
that.
can be broken
That's
down
not
easily.
even
I'll give
that.
you another one. I always tell them, I say, okay, what do you want? I say, what do you want? Like, you should not kill the cows and chicken. I say, okay, if you leave the cows, there will be a massacre.
Hmm.
There's no way these animals will survive. They are anyways created by humans. They're domesticated. They're not meant for if you leave a
Yes.
cow there, most of the wild animals will kill them. Most of them will starve to death because they don't have the capacity to really survive. And if you leave them in a wild area where they're not supposed to live, they might do
Hmm.
more devastation to the forest landscape, because they could literally eat the entire grass, and then it's like a desert.
Yeah, and they would also. I'm pretty sure if you made them a hamburger, they might even eat it.
but but my point is this. Where I'm going with this is like that. At the end, again, what the human mind does, the human mind projects its own ego and associates with an animal. So it goes, the dog looks like me, it must have feelings like me. So here, henceforth, I will protect it.
Hmm.
But since it can't do that on the tree, it thinks it's totally fine. Trees don't have feelings.
And then he just pees on it. Yeah,
Right? Or
for
cars,
example.
like, I love Kathy,
Yes, I would love to see a person who had a dog named Kathy. Oh man, so that's a lot to chew on, dude. I appreciated very much that you came on with me this evening. That was not a ghost. That was my girlfriend walking through.
or was she?
That was her.
Or was she?
Ooh. And I appreciate it, man. I want to tell you that I love you. I always have
I
told
love
you.
you too, brother.
And thanks for coming on. And I'm pretty sure we're going to have to come back and talk about this every once in a while. And I'll have you on every once in a while if that's okay with you, dude.
Yeah, for me, it's all good. Did we cover the right topics, or are we? Did we go
we know,
off tangent?
we always got. I think a lot of it can tie into a lot of things that where people are experiencing out there in the world right now, where they're like, "What is this that I'm seeing in the forest? It makes no sense. It doesn't fit any paradigm that I'm familiar with. Whether it be
I
Bigfoot or
mean,
Dog
I
Man
would
or
like to end on at least this one thing which we brought up. So it's like you because you asked about the evil concept. So where I was going with it is like
oh yeah, sure,
evil and good are under the same umbrella of existence.
okay,
So my point is like the evil is just a flip of the coin of the side, and it's there for contrast.
okay,
And
like light and
we,
dark.
yeah, you can see that it's there. Like, and the irony is like we think that the if you look at the space, like the stars and stuff, but the stars, the light is very little. The actual universe is just dark, but it's not the dark that we say. It's actually just nothing,
Mm,
and so it comes from nothing. So evil is just like another like version of like how do you say potentiality. The only thing is like the intrinsic nature of being you can see is actually neither of those. It's actually more neutral. So for
okay,
example, like happiness and sadness are not the neutral. Peace is the neutral, right? So a lot of times people think like, oh, my neutral state is happiness. No, happiness has its coin. With happiness comes baggage. If you think something will make you happy, if you lose it, you will be sad.
mm, very interesting.
You know, but
Yes,
but the neutral state is completely okay with the way things are.
true,
So
true.
that's why
How
if
do
you
how do we how do we? I'm sorry, I know we can just keep going all day, but how do you? Okay, what would be your suggestion on how to achieve that balance?
so the way I would look at it is like why I want to end this way is because I want to say like do not be afraid of the evil because
Mm,
do not because at the end of the day um, your mind is so powerful, and if you're aware of your awareness cannot be harmed. It just can't. You will find out one way or the other.
true.
Awareness cannot be harmed. So the only thing the evil can do is sort of it's a delusion. It's a delusion of the evil to think that it's separate. Eventually it will find out that it's not. Maybe it's just a weird path to get to where it is, and
Uh
we have
huh.
we have a different path.
Uh huh.
But at the end of the day, like what does the evil want? It thinks I'm going to acquire, and I'm going to be complete. It's not going to happen. It's just not
Wow.
going to happen.
Also, they can't.
The,
There's no winning. There's no losing.
no,
There's
at
just
the
there
end,
just is.
there is just this exactly. So you will hit everybody will hit the rock bottom. So I mean, even
Yes.
if you look at something, the funny thing is like maybe someday they will come with like there are people who think that I will find a way to stop death.
It's really
Okay,
funny, right? Yeah, dude. But hold on one second. It looks like I'm being enlightened by your conversation, and my head's doing
yeah,
this.
you're being Mario. You're getting
Oh
mushroom.
my God, I'm going to not exist
Yeah, but but just
anymore.
to end it there, which was like um I can't speak for like even if let's say somebody figures it out that they're never gonna die. Well, they better make sure that they can get everybody who they love not to die, or they better get everything set up because to not die is to experience more suffering for the rest of your life. You think it's not gonna be suffering? You
Mm.
think like somebody's gonna live 300 years and it's gonna be like by the 300th year he's gonna be like fuck me, I wish somebody kills me.
Which is the concept for me for heaven. That's why I have a hard time with heaven. The existence of being infinitely aware. That would, I think that would be insane. I don't care if it's the most beautiful thing you've ever seen in your life. Eventually, you'd be like, I
But I
wish someone
think
would hit me in the face with a bat.
well that's what
You
they
know?
said. If you look at the Bible, I'm not Christian, but they had this, and
Sure.
a lot of times what happens with Bible people take it literally, but they're metaphorical languages. So if you look at metaphorically, he said
Mm.
that there was a time when man was in the Garden of Eden. Garden of Eden was, he was in bliss, infinite, no issue, complete awareness.
Uh-huh.
And then ego came. Ego is the snake, the temptation, and then the knowledge. From the knowledge came the ego. So the tree of knowledge gave them labeling, and suddenly he could see that he's a man and he's a woman. That's separate. So separation came, and thus came suffering.
Oh
And that
wow.
and that was kind of what metaphorically it means, which was like, metaphorically, you are always in Garden of Eden, except the language and labeling and identification with the ego, you're separate.
Wow.
And the question comes, why would you want that? Because what consciousness is trying to do, at least you can see that, is consciousness already was aware. When you're born, if a baby is born, and everybody who has a child has experienced it, when a baby is born, it just looks at you with pure awareness. There is no judgment. You don't get a baby that goes, oh, well, you're my dad, look,
Man.
two
Uh,
thumbs down.
I don't want a pizza, dude.
Yeah. So it's pure awareness. But then the thing is, there's one thing to be pure awareness, but then with the language and then return back to pure awareness, it's a different level of perspective.
Gotcha.
It's an evolution of consciousness. To have the
Wow.
words and yet be aware of being aware, if that makes sense.
Makes sense to me, dude. I
Yeah.
appreciate it so very much, my man. And stick around. I want to make sure that this is recording correctly.
It's
And I love you, dude. I'll see you later.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, man.
You're gonna call
Bye.
me here, or we're gonna
No, I'll just wait here, and then I'll be right back. Okay? Just
got it,
wait
got
for
it.
a
Yeah,
second. All right,
I'm
man.
waiting.
Later.
Later.
So that was my best friend, or one of my best friends in the world, Mr. Kirthy Iyer, with some food for thought. I hope you guys enjoy this. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and don't forget to make a comment and all of the above. And remember, you're listening to the Eye of Jupiter podcast. We are the Eye, and we are aware. Later. You have been listening to the Eye of Jupiter podcast. If you have any strange occurrences, stories, or witnessed anything out of the ordinary, don't be afraid to send me an email at the Eye of Jupiter podcast at gmail.com, and maybe you will be on the show. And please remember, we are the Eye, and we are aware.